A string of violent attacks against elderly Asian Americans has law enforcement on alert. This surveillance video capturing an alleged assailant in California violently shoving an 84-year-old Thai American man to the ground. He died of his injuries days later. Authorities say it's not currently being prosecuted as a hate crime, and the suspect has pleaded not guilty. A 91-year-old man was pushed over in Oakland's Chinatown. The motivation has not yet been determined.
In a 12-day period, there were 18 incidents of violence committed against Asian individuals, many of whom were seniors.
Advocates say these attacks became more prevalent after former President Trump began routinely using racist language to describe the pandemic.
The China virus, or I like the plague from China.
A UN report found there were more than 1,800 racist incidents against Asian Americans from March to May of last year.
As Asian Americans continue to share stories of violence and discrimination, messaging from some of our politicians not making it any easier. From the Secretary of State.
Before I address the efforts that we've been engaged in to push back against the Chinese virus.
To members of Congress.
The culture where people eat bats and snakes and dogs and things like that, these viruses are transmitted from the animal to the people, and that's why China has been the source of a lot of these viruses like SARS, like MERS, the swine flu.
To the President of the United States.
I'd like to begin by providing an update on what we are doing to minimize the impact of the Chinese virus on our nation's students.
These labels and titles continuing to trigger acts of hate across the country. Asian American outrage now trending on Twitter, reacting to the president's language.
I want him to call the virus by its proper name and not use racist tactics to divert from a lack of responsibility or a lack of responsiveness that we've seen from his administration.
California Congressman Ted Lieu, in his op-ed for the Washington Post on Wednesday, saying Trump's rhetoric adds fuel to the growing fire of hatred being misdirected at Asian Americans. The fact that he is the president of the United States, who is responsible for the well-being of all Americans, only makes his rhetoric even more disturbing. ABC's senior White House correspondent Cecilia Vega pressing the president.
Why do you keep calling this the Chinese virus? There are reports of dozens of incidents of bias against Chinese Americans in this country. Your own aide, Secretary Azar, says he does not use this term. He says ethnicity does not cause the virus. Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all. No, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate.
About Chinese Americans
please, John. Please.
The aide behind you. Are you comfortable with this term?
I have great love for all of the people from our country, but as you know, China tried to say at one point, maybe they stopped now, that it was caused by American soldiers. That can't happen. It's not going to happen. Not as long as I'm president. It comes from China.
This isn't the first time a virus has been named after its place of origin, official or otherwise. West Nile virus from the Nile region, Zika from the Zika forest, and Spanish flu named after an outbreak in Spain, despite its origins elsewhere.
A wave of violence against elderly Asian Americans putting communities across the country on edge. There have been more than 2,500 incidents of anti-Asian hate crimes reported between March and September of last year. That's according to a new study from New York's Asian American Bar Association.